We're going to see where this video goes. And the reason why is because obviously this may sit well with some people, may not sit well with some others, but that doesn't matter. Ask yourself this question, because sometimes you'll look at people and say that they're bad, they're evil and whatnot. You ever consider that you might be the evil one? Huh? You ever considered you might be the evil one, pretending that you're the good guy, but you're really the evil one? Or not even pretending to be the good guy. You just think you're a good guy, but you're not. You're actually the evil one. You never considered that, right? I want to talk about abortion. And for the word that I'm going to use here, all right, is grape. Meaning you take out the G, and that's the word that I'm referring to. So we're going to use the word grape, and I'm letting you know that ahead of time. Now, when it comes to the topic of abortion, the reason I'm going to be talking about this is because everything, it's all politics. I don't know if you noticed, but everything you watch online now, it's all politics. Since this whole Charlie Kirk thing happened, it's more or less like, you know, the whole Donald Trump coming into presidency, the whole scandal behind him and when he was coming up to presidency, the whole ideologies of the left wing with Biden and Kamala Harris. It's all designed perfectly for separation, but it's also to get your attention directly into politics. You see, this whole thing runs on participation. So if they can get you to participate, the system stays alive. Okay? And when you participate in this, it is ritualizing you being further away from what you think you are. The real you. You're not this body. You are basically playing a character. There's a fucking mosquito in here that I don't feel like it needs to live at the moment. But do all lives matter? Does the mosquito's life matter? Or does my comfort right now matter? Because I didn't want it to suck on my blood, right? So I can go one of two ways. I can catch the mosquito and put it back outside, where it will probably find its way back in here. All right? Because I want to have the window cracked open. So I would have to close my window, right? And accommodate to the mosquito. That's an option, right? Which one's right, which one's wrong? Because it's going to try to suck on my blood. When you have toxins in your body, right? When you have parasites, these things have life to them, don't they? But the interest that you want them out of your body, you could go one of two ways. You can take certain herbs and perform certain protocols to kill them and expel them out of the body, or you could just do nothing and completely fast. Fasting will get rid of them, right? So the same way these systems that we're looking at outside of you it requires fasting, but people want to participate in it. You would say, well, Zigzag, you're participating in it, you're talking about it, you're polarizing. Yeah, but I'm giving you a message about it as well. Okay? I want you to understand that everything requires participation. Fasting eradicates these things the same way fasting eradicates parasites out of your system. You can do certain herbal protocols, and that's to neutralize imbalanced chemistry. So I'm more or less representing an herbal protocol to neutralize the imbalanced chemistry. Now, to somebody else, I may be an imbalanced chemistry. But in this realm, the strong survive, the weaker consumed, right? Now, the ones that utilize all their tools to their advantage ends up winning. It's almost like a boxer. You have a boxer, he's a one-dimensional fighter. And if he goes up against an MMA fighter, the boxer stands no chance. There's too many weapons against that one-dimensional boxer, even though he's an elite boxer, the best boxer in the world. But the fact that he steps into a different realm with, different rules of MMA, it's going to be totally, totally different. So, that's on that, right? Let's talk about the stages of this thing that I'm talking about when it comes to abortion. So I got into a debate with somebody, and they basically argue that the woman shouldn't have a say, and this all comes from Charlie Kirk's message too, that the woman doesn't have a say if she should abort the child or not. And this would be even under circumstances of rape. And this is all due to the patriarchy, right? The patriarchy is no different than a woman being submissive to a man. So when you look at all these people telling you that because of the patriarchy, the woman should not, or they're subordinate to this patriarchy, they're the feminine in that position that they're in. They're subordinate to a figure outside of themselves that they don't even see. They know nothing about. But we can argue a bunch of different ways. We can say, well, we don't see frequencies, yet we use them. We don't see gravity, but we know it exists. We have air, and we're breathing it, and you don't see it, right? God, we argue the existence of God, which in actuality depends on what your definition of that is, because that really doesn't even matter. When we look at all these perspectives, we have to try to narrow down the spell that has you thinking you know something that you really don't. Because when you look at, let's say, sperms are alive. So if somebody's against abortion, is it the position that they're pro-life? Because if you're pro-life, you can go jerk off. You just mass genocide a bunch of living little sperm cells that were living, looking for an egg to basically fertilize. So it's no different than a man wanting to impregnate a woman, right? So we're all doing this. We try to impregnate ideas into each other. So we're all just like sperm cells as well. So if it's not pro-life, what is it? Is it religion? So if it's religion, then you're in feminine energy. But we would have to argue now and get into a debate about religion, right? Now, one would argue sperm is not the same as a fetus, because a fetus now is in the womb of the mom as a potential for a human, where a sperm cell is not a developing human. But you have to look at it very, very carefully, okay? So the same way there's life to the sperm, yet we discard it and not really pay attention to it. You'll jerk off in a sock, put the sock in the laundry like it never happened, right? Now we look at this embryo, which develops into a fetus. It's not breathing the same way you and I are. And this fetus depends on the mother for nutrients, depends on the mother for making sure it gets the right amount of oxygen. So the mother has to be breathing properly, have the right amount of oxygen levels in her bloodstream for this baby to be able to develop properly, right? So it extracts a lot of the nutrients from the mom. The mom would have to ensure that she is taking care of herself accordingly and with no stresses at all. So when you, for example, ask, what is love? Love is, I've correlated this to my garden, the chemistry that holds everything together, right? Love is basically in every single thing, including the things that are evil. And that's why they're held together, right? So love is basically harmony. It's the glue that's holding everything together. When I walk my garden, the reason I have a green thumb, my heart is connected to my garden. I have my heart in that project. I'm passionate about it. So love, I'm having an interaction with the garden, and in kind the garden responds to me. That's why I've made videos where I said that you are observing the reptilian in real time. When you see your outside reality, everything is molding and shaping to you. While you think that you're trying to fit in, it's really the other way around. Everything's inverted, including religion, how they tell you man created in the image of God. It's really God created in the image of man. Okay? Because there's a picture of a white guy. Where if I go to you and you never had this idea of God in your mind, and I show you a picture of Christ, you'll be like, I don't know, some white guy with long flowy hair, right? But nobody knows Jesus' face. So and they say that you will know me by my face, you will know me by my voice. You are listening to it as you speak. You're outside of yourself, looking for it outside of yourself. You'll have that recognition once you hear your voice. Okay? Once you see your face, the fact that we can use mirrors and reflections to see your own reflection in a mirror. You're also looking at it in people outside of you. So all the corruption that you're observing yourself. It's versions of you created in your image, because you are imagining this whole thing and you are collapsing it into existence as the observer, but you're associating as the body. So with that being said, we would say, why would we care about anybody else's feelings if everybody is nothing but, if you're here in this planet by yourself, right? Why would we consider others? You see, this is why religion keeps you separate from yourself, because the key is to love yourself. And when you love yourself, you will understand that you don't need any laws or commandments to treat others as you would yourself. The reason that people need laws and operate under fear, where if they don't treat their neighbor accordingly, they'll either go to jail or you'll go to hell, and you believe in these things. So you live in fear, so you'll be fake, which, everybody's fake, but you'll be fake just because you're in fear of these negative consequences. No different than a child waits for that one special day every year, Christmas, where they tell the child, and this is where the programming starts, that it doesn't matter if nobody's around, Santa Claus is always watching you. Santa Claus is always watching you. He sends helpers to, ensure that you're behaving. You'll be on the naughty list. You won't get gifts. You know what I'm saying? Now, look at how this whole entire programming goes, right? You see, the parents, they don't know any better. They try to control their children. They indoctrinate their children into these lies. And then they further lie to them after the whole Santa Claus era passes. Now, as adults, you believe in something outside of yourself called a white man, Jesus Christ. Right? Where it just doesn't leave room for you to know anything about yourself. The whole time system. You're experiencing time. That's what you're doing here in this realm. You're experiencing time. But notice where your time goes. Your mind is controlled by algorithms and what they want you to see based on media, propaganda, neuro-linguistic programming. It's in the music. It's in movies. They'll have you controlled in that way. Then you eat certain foods that keep you sedated to some extent, calcifying your pineal gland. So now you're more suggestible, right? Everybody's in feminine energy. And then now when you indoctrinate yourself into this religion, you don't know anything about yourself because you're always looking for something outside of yourself. So you're sedated, you're drugged up, and you don't know anything about yourself. So let's talk about the abortion part, okay? I am zigzag. Are you for abortion? I'm in the I don't give a fuck bandwagon. That's where I'm at when it comes to abortion. Now, I can't fathom something like that happening to me. I can't. It's almost like asking a millionaire how they handle a poverty like situation. They just can't see themselves in a poverty situation because they're just too far from that. You get what I'm saying? So I can't fathom seeing myself there. And I'm in the bandwagon of people before they have children. This is where you should know yourself. How are you bringing another child into the planet and you don't know yourself? It's like you getting in a relationship. They always end up being toxic. You'll play the victim role. You'll end up having toxicity all the time. You know what I'm saying? Draining you out, spiritually destroying you because you're in a toxic relationship. Because you don't know yourself. Once you know yourself, you know what happens if you don't change? Suppose that the relationship doesn't work, you'll end up getting another partner. But if you never did the internal work, the reflecting on the situation truly from within, you'll attract the same person in another body. You'll have another person but the same exact characteristics, the same toxicity will manifest in another person. So really, you're attracting the same person in another body. The woman is the shadow aspect of yourself. The masculine, or the husband, is the shadow aspect of yourself as well, if you're a woman. So this is why, if you don't know yourself and you have a child, it's not to say that you'll have problems per se, but you're playing this game by chance. Oh, let's see what happens. You just don't even know. Like, you have the ability to manifest the specific gender you want, the specific characteristics, born under a specific time and date, like astrologically. But don't forget, this whole calendar system is manipulated. We're under something called a Julian calendar, where months were added, right? And time is not in correct accordance with nature. So you're just slightly off as far as your circadian rhythm. It's almost like when you go, you're used to, let's say here in the East Coast, and then you go to the West Coast, you get something called jet lag, right? So you got to try to accommodate to that time system now when you go over there. So now you're kind of off rhythm here because the time systems are differently and everything gets manipulated. They'll take a day off. They got a leap year. They got all this happening. Daylight savings time. It's always distorted in a way to make sure that it's accurately not in tune with your proper biology. And this is a fact. So you're experiencing time, but yet you're not connected to time, right? But you're following a clock system, which means that your experience, the majority of it has to be to go to work, to mess with your family, to do whatever projects you got during the day. You get what I'm saying? We ask ourselves, what is the purpose and meaning of life? Religion tells you that you must have a wife or a husband by a specific age. You're supposed to be fruitful and multiply, have many, many, many babies. You know what I'm saying? And these are because that religious system runs on programs and multiplicity. It's in other words, the more followers they gain, the more power that system contains, right? So when we start to ask ourselves about, population control and how it's performed, it could have been performed through certain pandemics and whatnot. And I'm just making content. I'm not saying this is fact, all right? So I don't want my video to get flagged. So do your own research. You shouldn't be listening to anybody online, but listening to yourself. And if something resonates with you, it's because a version of yourself is actually talking to you through me. Now, that's how you should be doing with everybody. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of people have this follower complex because they follow Jesus Christ. They follow governmental, the government. They follow religion, the education system, the pharmaceuticals. You got all the faith in everything outside of you that you'll find a YouTuber and they may have a little bit of alternative media and you go praise that individual. So it's like you just never. And then let's say, for example, somebody's in a religious organization and then somehow they wake up, but they get out of spirituality and then, religion and get into spirituality. That spirituality they got into is nothing but another religion, because instead of looking at it as something that they are spirituality. Not that you're getting into spirituality. You are that. You'll use the same exact religious terminologies. You'll use the word universe for God. Those, instead of saying God blessed me with the universe gave me this, or the universe tests you and the universe blessed me with this. Manifestation is nothing but miracles of Christ. All these fancy, new agey words were just modified from the same verbiage you were using in religion. You just changed the words around, but it's the same exact lingo, same shit. You're doing this whole thing. That's why I said the power's in your hands. Now, a person who got raped, I'm not for the abortion, but in the instance that, right? I'm not for or against the abortion, just making sure that that's clear. But in the instance a woman gets raped and she does not want that baby, she has all the right to not have that baby because she was forced. It's almost like somebody forcing you to believe in something, have an idea. First of all, you know what was forced when a woman gets raped? She was forced an idea. A seed was planted into her. It's almost like somebody planting a seed into you and you did not want that seed in your mind. And it changes your whole entire life. Because once a seed is planted and grows, your perspective about life changes. That's what is called mind control. So you got planted a seed in your womb, and that's an idea also, because everybody's an idea. Now, the reason I think it's detrimental to carry that child if the woman does not want it, because there's no harmony there. The love is not there. Some people have sex. This woman was essayed. Essayed is assaulted, with the S, X, assaulted. There was no chemistry. There was no love there. Love is, you can make love with someone and you're creating magic. Just two people having sex, even if you're in a relationship, some people who have sex and they're thinking about they're a famous porn star or somebody that gets their rocks off. You're nothing but masturbating on that individual anyway. So your energy is going somewhere else rather than the energy circulating with the person. Instead of being present with the person is the one that's really lighting you up and turning you on. Some people aren't. They're just doing it, you know what I'm saying? But they'll still think about something else. Other people in mind or whatnot. You're not fully present. So when I was talking about love in the gardens, it's the same thing. I'm having a chemistry with the garden that doesn't involve touch. The same way you can make a woman orgasm without touching her. And this could be done through seducing words. This could be done through certain energy that gets manipulated a certain way with the consent of both adults. But to have this child in this womb, your body's made of water. You carry this child. You don't want... Now, if the woman wants to keep the baby, then she should keep the baby. That's on her. What I'm here arguing is, why would we take the decision away from the woman? The woman is an adult. Adults can make their own decisions. And the baby is not born. It's not living the same way you and I live. So the reason we respect each other is because they are a direct version and mirror of yourself. We're both breathing life into each other. The fact that you're in my space, we breathe the breath of life into each other. The more I love myself, the more I realize that the people outside of me are me, and I'm giving them life, and I can transmute them if they're in a negative state. You could do this, or you could be in your ego. If somebody pisses me off, or somebody's just spewing some negativity to me, I can try to show them the bright side of things. But my energy and my attitude, my presence is going to be very important. I would just tell them, hey, but why don't you look at it like this? Actually, it's a good thing. Blah, 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 and just tell them with the bright side. They may actually consider it and be like, yeah, you know what? You're right. Or you can engage and keep on with the dramatic conversations. Or if they pissed you off, rather than you changing the tempo, right? You engage, and then it becomes a physical altercation between you two, or it could be an argument, whatever it may be. There's big differences here. So when it comes to the baby in the womb, this was an essayed victim. She's carrying this baby. She's being forced to carry it because they want to make laws against women making this decision. You see, the woman is actually the true power here. I'm gonna make a separate video on that, or I may mention it here. Let's see how it goes. But if this baby is carried in this womb, it's under a certain level of stress already to begin with in the womb. And this chemistry that's imbalanced in the mom is getting passed on to the child. The mom's vibratory state is not in the harmonious state. She's going to have the trauma in mind. She's going to have this whole scenario happening to her. She's being forced against her will. And this chemistry gets passed on to the child. When there are toxic couples and the man is treating the woman bad, the baby is experiencing that too, because the baby and the mom are one. Even though scientifically, the fetus or the baby, I mean, it's not a baby, it's a fetus all the way up until it's born. It's its own entity scientifically, right? But if you look at it, they're one. No different than a man and a woman having sex. They're two separate beings, but the moment that they're making love, they become one. They are one. They're androgynous. What do you think they say? What is the sex of that animal? Is it a male or a female? So we look at it by gender, right? When people are having sex, there is no gender. It's androgyny. You literally become one. You're experiencing the Adam and Eve when they were completely intact together. The Adam and Eve thing is a bullshit ass lie too. The Adam and Eve, first of all, it's inverted too. Everything's backwards. Everything's backwards. First of all, Adam, if you want to have it in physical form, what Adam was as an idea in physicality, it was actually a woman. It was actually a woman. And that split, okay, was the man, okay, separating from Eve. Now, when we talk about rib cage or the rib, whatever it may be, we look at the word rib, it looks like ribosomes, right? That will leave to interpretation, but we're going to use common sense here because that's what logic is. Logic sometimes is just common sense. That split, you now have the man. But the man was given life by Eve the moment that split happens. Because the complete human is the woman. You see, the woman, she has functional titties. What are the functions of a man's breast? There's no functions to those body parts. You have an XY chromosome when you're a man. You have an XX chromosome. So the man determines the sex of the baby, right? But when we look at it, and that's because he has the leftovers, the change. You have a whole bill. If I have a $20 bill and I need change, right? I would have to have that 20 in simpler forms. So man is the simpler form of the whole bill. That's why he's able to determine the sex of the baby, because he's the leftovers, the change from the whole. This is coming from God. I'm letting you know that. So the fact that that split happens, you now have the man, but that man exists because Eve collapsed him into existence. So you now have the Eve, which is your heart, right? Because that's why you see the rib, right? You split. The heart now is outside of you, which is what you're observing in totality as Mother Nature. The heart, that's why we say, oh, and think about this too, which is crazy. The words we use when we speak to each other. Oh, what's up, babe? Baby. What up, ma? Or even like when you know, you watch corn with the P in the front of it, okay? You'll notice that they say, F me, daddy. It's like this literally everything here in this realm is a representation of something of the original idea, of the original idea. Because when you get with a woman, you are really getting with your mother. That's what you're getting. You're getting with your mother. So you'll inherit all of the mother's traits into that female form. If you're a man. A woman needs the presence of a true masculine man. The father figure, truly the Christ, is androgynous. There's the masculine and the feminine, and it's imbalanced, the yin and the yang. It can be overly masculine, catering to an imaginary system that we call the monetary system, the governmental system, all this. Because that's what we say, that a man is a man by what he does as far as status here in this imaginary realm. So you're only doing it by the illusion of resources. And women get programmed to only look at a man and want to chase that. Because every man that doesn't have this true masculinity in him, he just has this illusion of money, he'll attract the same thing, parasitic women, because they don't see anything other than that, because they did not get raised by a correct father. The Christ in man over woman, is nothing but the mind of man. So the man is the conscious mind. The awareness is truly you, Christ. The level of awareness you have, determines the level of consciousness. It's kind of like when we say a frequency is a level of vibration. There is an infinite number of frequencies. Your mind is controlled because that's the way that they can keep you as a good battery cell in this system. You could be a cell where you're a battery to the system as a battery cell, and it keeps your awareness in a prison cell. Or you can turn it around and you can put the outside world in a prison cell, and you here experience yourself in separate. In other words, you're in the world but not of it. Knowing that you're in the world but not of it. Meaning your body is an instrument of this mind, but the one in control is you. So the world is molding and shaping to you. Once you're aware of that, you know what you're putting into the woman, the subconscious mind. The awareness is needed. Everybody's conscious. Everybody's conscious. You could walk around, I'm walking around, I'm aware, I'm awake, But then you're not aware of a log on the floor, you're going to trip and fall and break your face. Because you weren't aware of the log, even though you're conscious and awake of the world, but you weren't aware of something in your environment. Now, this is where I turn it around and say, you're not aware of yourself. You don't know that you are the conductor of this train. That's why it's mentally training you. Everything. When you go to the gym, you train yourself. You go to a job, they train you to be a good employee. You go to school, they train you to be a good employee. Everything has to do with training. Who's the conductor? Everybody outside of you is teaching you something. You know everything, but they make you believe you don't know anything. You know how stubborn children are? They think they know so much, but they actually do. And the parents are like, man, why? They argue with the child, but the child is stubborn. They don't even buy into the lack. They want everything. When they don't get it, they throw a temper tantrum. They're like little royalties. The kids, the goats. That's what we call goats, kids. The greatest of all time. Because we're experiencing time. And if you have children, you need to experience your time with them. Those are the gold miners. That's why we call kids miners. You are the motherfucking Anunnaki. You're everything here that they've taught you in fucking scriptures or in books of mythology and all that shit. You're all of those things. The gold is in those kids because they are gold. They are the kingdom of heaven. That's what the kingdom of heaven. You have to enter the kingdom of heaven. You be childlike. They are manifested into this world, and they are experiencing the kingdom of heaven in real time, right in front of your face, regardless of whatever happens outside of you. They're joyful, playful, malleable, flexible, energetic, open-minded. Something that fucking adults are not. You're indoctrinated, so you hear a message like this and you call me crazy or I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I love that one stupid fucking person commented, I don't know what I'm talking about. But that's all they said. So I said, okay, cool. I don't know what I'm talking about. How about you elaborate so we can get into a discussion on what I don't know what I'm talking about so I can dismantle what you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. But that's where it ended. Because look, you know why I don't get worked up with nothing online? Because it's all robots. Everybody's a fucking robot. Online, you don't even know if you're talking to real people. You may be talking to fucking bots online. They get you worked up. And then something's taking your energy. And that's the distorted, that's the true toxic feminine energy. It's technology. You see, we're supposed to use technology to our advantage. I'm going to tell you something about technology. The woman for man is the latest piece of technology. For one, the woman, nothing like a woman to motivate your fucking ass to get your life in order and do things accordingly, because you naturally want to do this. You naturally want to provide for her. You naturally want to provide for her. It's innately in men to do this. So if you find the right woman, but you'll know is if you do the internal work, the shadow work, face the darkest aspects of yourself, the person you hate the most in you is in you, you'll find that. You can express this in a way that it's going to work because it's all about integration. Science and spirituality is supposed to be together, not separate. This is why science, you'll notice that everything in science to deal with chemistry or anything deals in isolation. Your body, it doesn't deal in isolation. If you have an imbalanced chemistry in the body, such as a disease, your body is holistically working. That's why they call them organs. You play organs in a church. If one organ is off, the whole song's distorted. You give out one frequency, one vibration. You look vibrant when you're healthy. So you look at your body like one well-oiled machine. You are Father Time. The chronological order must be intact, which means that if one wheel on the cog is off, the whole thing falls apart or time just ceases to exist. So all your wheels, you got chakra wheels, they all have to function in harmony. There is no bad and good. What is bad and what's good? Bad and good only comes from the religious thinking. So it's not, oh, bad and good is only what your preference is. It doesn't matter what it is. Either way you put it, I just clearly said, you'll know what's bad and good. You'll know what's bad and good. Under circumstances, you'll ask yourself, if you're a woman and you got great, because in my opinion, everything's self-inflicted and everything happens for a reason. Everything happens based on certain imbalances in your mental state, certain traumas that were passed down through certain family lineages and whatnot. And you bought into some kind of idea that manifests a certain reality for you. You see, you take care of your responsibilities. So when you have children, you birth this into existence, you take care of your responsibilities. It's very important. But anything in your body that's not manifested is an idea. And you could change your mind. And your ideas change. Your ideologies may change. That's how I consider whatever is inside of you. They're nothing but ideas. You see, man doesn't know himself. That's why people who are poor have more babies. You see, I had to pay a lot of money to get these cats spayed and neutered out here because all they want to do is reproduce. They can't control their sexual urges. You see, we have higher faculties. We can control our sexual urges. But some people are in their animalistic state, separated from themselves. They're not even really humans. They're just animals. That's why they went and sexually assaulted a female. Because they can't control themselves. It's a mental disorder. The mind is all the universe is mental. The fact, and we categorize homosexual people as mentally unstable. It's a mental disorder. But it's not a disease. It is normal if you are gay. It is normal. But it's a mental disorder, not be in a sense where you're sick. It's a mental disorder where you're not conducive to nature. That's all it is. There's nothing wrong with it. Because if you have a honeymoon effect towards somebody of the same sex, and that's just what you are, because I've had debates where it came down to either you're born gay or you are conditioned to be gay. And I don't buy into you're conditioned to be gay. You're born gay. You're born straight. Because if you say you're molded and shaped to being gay, then that means if you're straight, you could just be gay if you want. And that doesn't make sense. If you're straight, how do you just be gay? That means you've always been gay. You've always been gay. You didn't come out the closet for societal purposes or family reasons, or you just completely didn't know yourself. But if you were straight, you had kids, and then all of a sudden you now are gay, you were always gay. I don't believe in bisexuality. Some people say I like men and women. That's possible. You could like men and women. Get your rocks off with each one. But that doesn't mean you're bisexual. You are gay. The same exact way. It's not. There's no gray. It's black and white. We are in a realm of polarities. Anything in between are the experiences, what you associate yourself with as a subjective experience, but there's always going to be an objective truth behind it. So if I'm a man and I decide to change my sex and be a woman now, I'm always going to be a man. Because if you look at the fundamental root of my chemistry, I'm XY. I'm always going to be a man. No matter how many costumes, I can even chop my dick off. It's never going to change. That's the objective behind the subjective that you're experiencing in your reality. I believe the person feels like a woman and thinks he or she is a woman. But it's really always going to be a he. It's always going to be a he. Now, masculine and feminine energies are not genders. These are what you embody. They're channels. Men can embody feminine energy and women can embody more of a masculine energy. That's why you see women who are more girly while you see women who are more like masculine. They're more like tomboyish, but they're not necessarily gay. They're not necessarily gay, while there are a majority of them that are. But it doesn't mean that everybody who's more tomboyish is gay. Now, why do I say that the woman is the ultimate power? In order for light to reign and literally even exist, the darkness has to reign first. It has to reign first. Out of darkness comes light. That's the order. Now, what you see here is the masculine energy. It's the strongest presence. The feminine, like women, are the manifestation of that darkness. So they're lighter, they're softer, while men are harder, more solid, more stable, more structured, more of a logic and reasoning. The women are more dreamy, more imaginative, more fluid, more emotional. They are the embodiment of emotions as in the physical form. But I've met a lot of women, including women who debate much better than even men. They embody a masculine energy, but it doesn't mean they have to be men. Because here's the thing though, the religious order tells you that women have to sit in the back of the church. Women are to be quiet. Women are to this, almost like submissive to the man. And that's a order that's copied and mimicked off your mind. Because the subconscious mind can't tell the difference between a real or fake experience. The subconscious mind takes orders from the conscious mind. It has no ability to make decisions, but just receive what's coming from the conscious mind. But the conscious mind of most individuals are in a feminine state. They're not masculine because the awareness is not there. They are asleep. That's what conscious means, being woke. But this subconscious being subordinate to the conscious mind is not done by force. It's harmoniously happening. So in other words, here in this physical realm, women, they will know the light in men and they will harmoniously submit to the man in the same way that all the planets and the moons are all subordinate to the masculine planet, the planet of the sun. The same way the sun rises and sets and has order over the chaotic natures of Mother Planet. We're here, we're in darkness. You're in darkness. What's lighting up your reality though? The sun, or is it you? Because without you, the sun wouldn't even exist. You collapse the sun into existence. You are walking on a feminine planet. Check this out. This earth is made of majority water. What was here first, land or water? So think about this though. And here's the royal gem. If the land came after the water, and the water would be the feminine, the solid land would be masculine, even though the whole entire planet, they call it Mother Nature. It's just like my hand, la mano, the whole hand is feminine. My fingers are masculine, los dedos. And it's what you do work with. Now, if you look at that overall, and we look at the Adam and Eve story, it's the same concept. They'll make you believe that Eve came out the rib of Adam and it was nothing but a perfect split. Where the earth, which is Eve, the darkness, that's why you have evening. Adam would be the sun. And it's how you have this perfect chemistry happening. And then all of a sudden, you have, and because if you're going to buy into that story literally, where did Chinese people come from? Where did black people come from? Where did all these other people come from? Right? Who was here first, black people or white people? See, I don't want to get crazy going into that because I'll go into so many different avenues with that topic. But here's my perspective on it. And I've talked more in this video than I think I ever have it in any other video as far as information goes. You appeared here the same way you appear in your dream. If you go to sleep and you just happen to be in the dream, were you ever born in the dream and did you ever die in the dream? Where did the people, places, and things come from? They're all in your head, aren't they? If you wake up and say, hey, Billy, I had a dream about you last night. Billy's like, oh, I don't know. That's cool. What did you dream about? Billy wasn't really with you. You just had an image of Billy in your mind. And you had experiences in there as if you're normal, like you're going about your day here. You don't question whether you were born or dead or died there. Some people I've met in my dream and I know them intimately and I wake up and I'm like, who the fuck was that? I don't even know who the fuck that was. I remember there was a girl that I was having a really good time with, man. And I was having a really good time. Like I had the butterflies in my stomach and whatnot. It was not even my girl. And I wake up and I'm like, who the fuck was that chick? Left me thinking about her for like about an hour after I woke up because I kind of missed her. You see, I can't tell my girl that because she'll get jealous though. Right? How weird is that? She'll think that there's really somebody that I met here in this physical realm that I'm dreaming about when it's not even that. But those are the type of obstacles you go through in life. The misunderstandings, the things that are going in you, you only know yourself. Because if you did have the dream, don't forget, those are manifestations of your subconscious mind. Something's happening there. And those things aren't literal. They're all symbols. What matters is how you felt in the dream. That's all that really matters. Was it a bad or a good experience? And then you see what people, places, and things actually mean to you in this waking state. Your manifestation of your life is your internal world. That's why people say, I have a worldview that looks like this. And you try to have others buy into your worldview. That's a form of graping a person. Now, debates are fun because debates actually get the best out of both individuals while the observers are watching. They're blood cells in your body. But I don't take none of that literal, or I don't take it personal either. Although I do have a lot of fun even sometimes when it gets contentious. It's okay with me. I'm fine with that. Because I hang up and I don't take it personal at all. I even forget what the hell I talked about. I want to cut this one here because I don't want to make it extremely long. But I will tie more stuff in it because there's more of the biology part that I want to talk about. Like what a fetus actually is, the embryo. And maybe I'll get into it. Maybe I won't. I think these are the points I wanted to cover here. The main point here is that when you look at Adam and Eve, like let's say other couples, and they're going through who should they get the abortion or not, that's up to them. I don't give a fuck. That's up to you. If you have the abortion, okay, well, whatever. If you didn't go through it, well, that's cool too. Now, if it happens to me, I can't fathom that. I just can't. Somebody says, well, what happens if it happens to you? I just can't fathom that. So I refuse to even answer a question like that because I can't fathom that. I said I'm not for it or against it. But if it ever came to the point where that did happen, I would see how I felt in the moment. It's up to me whether I want to keep the idea or not. I love my son. I don't regret nothing about what I've gone through here. But I've made a lot of changes up until this point where even people who have gotten raped and they do go along with the child, it's a possibility that they can live the best life ever. So it's not to say that because of that, life is going to be bad. That's not what it is. You can have the best life. Everybody has the ability to change. What I'm talking about is in that moment, if the person wants to go through with it or not, it's up to the individual. Whether they regret it later on and say they made a mistake, It's up to that individual, because the moment you say to have it and the experience is bad, guess what? It's on you. You had something to do with that karmic repercussion. So my position is you do whatever the fuck you want to do. I don't have a position on what's in that womb. There's no baby in that womb. How do you know anything in you actually exists? The same way you'll never physically look into your own eyeballs, you'll never know what's even in you unless somebody puts you to sleep. They can open you up. You'll only see a video of it. Or you can see what's inside somebody else if you open them up, but you'll never physically see your own insides. So how do you know it exists? Now, this goes way far from solipsism, nihilism. It's none of that. It's none of that. Nature is neutral. And neutrality is a superpower. But there's balance in it as long as there's love. The same way you need trust in a relationship, love is needed when it comes to neutrality, because that's what your environment is. Your environment is love. Everything is love. And love here, this is all neutral. There's no attachments. That's why they say when it's love, you let it go. If it's meant to be, it comes back. The only duty you have is to yourself. So whatever's in you is nothing but an idea. The same way you are an idea. If I meet somebody, I may have an idea of what they are. They have an idea of themselves. But whatever they present themselves at is what they want me to believe about themselves. But you know, because you have an idea of them based on how they presented themselves. So that's why they say, let me see your ID. ID is your idea. What idea is about you? Your height, weight, width, color, hair, brown, whatever. Gender, all ideas. That's all I got for this video. Like, share, subscribe. We'll talk soon.